Emily stood in
This
the
is
empty
all we
living
have
room of
left.
what used to be her home,
Everything we
holding a
couldn't
cardboard
carry.
box filled with memories she didn't know where to place anymore. The walls felt cold, stripped of warmth, just like her life after her husband's death. In a matter of months, grief had turned into financial ruin. Medical bills, unpaid loans, and finally the bank's final notice had crushed her last hope. Now, as a widow with 3 young sons, she was being pushed out of the only place that had ever felt safe. Her boys, Noah, Luke, and Ben, sat quietly on the floor, surrounded by packed bags. They were too young to fully understand loss, yet old enough to feel its weight. Noah, the eldest, tried to act brave, helping his younger brothers fold clothes. Luke kept asking when their father would come back, and Emily had no answers left. Ben, the youngest, clutched a worn-out toy truck, his only comfort in the chaos. Emily swallowed her tears, reminding herself she had to be strong, for them. Family members had offered kind words but no shelter. Friends avoided eye contact when she asked for help. Every door she knocked on seemed to close before she could finish her sentence. Being a widow with children had turned her into a burden in the eyes of many. Still, she refused to let her sons sleep in a shelter. Late one night, scrolling through job listings, she found a small ad looking for help on a ranch in Texas. No promises, no guarantees, just work. It was enough. She sold what little she could, loaded their old car, and began the long drive across states. Snow lined the highways, and gas stops became moments of silent fear as Emily counted her remaining dollars. The boys huddled together in the backseat, whispering stories to distract themselves. Emily prayed quietly with every mile, asking for nothing more than a place to rest and a chance to rebuild. After days on the road, they reached a wide stretch of land under an open sky. The ranch stood alone, wooden and weathered, surrounded by fences and grazing cattle. It looked intimidating, yet peaceful. Emily parked the car, her heart pounding. She fixed the boys' coats, brushed their hair with shaking hands, and walked them to the door. As she raised her hand to knock, doubt flooded her mind. What if this was another rejection? What if she had brought her children all this way for nothing? Still, she knocked, because a mother's hope doesn't die easily. The door creaked open, revealing a tall man with a rugged face and tired eyes. Emily took a deep breath, ready to explain her story once again, unaware that this moment would change their lives forever. The man who opened the door was tall, broad-shouldered, with calloused hands and eyes that had clearly seen both hardship and kindness. Emily took a hesitant step forward, her sons clinging to her skirts. "Hello," she began, her voice trembling. "My name is Emily. I don't have anywhere else to go. I have 3 boys, and we're looking for work, or shelter, or anything. We just need a place to stay for a while." Jack Carter, the rancher, didn't immediately respond. He tilted his head slightly, studying the family in front of him. The wind whipped across the open land, rustling the fences and bending the tall grass. The ranch smelled of hay, leather, and the faint aroma of smoke from the farmhouse chimney. The boys peeked from behind Emily, their eyes wide and anxious. "I see," Jack said finally, his voice calm but firm. "How long have you been on the road?" Emily swallowed, the words catching in her throat. "A few days, maybe a week. We've been trying to find work, somewhere safe, anywhere." She glanced at her sons. "I don't want them to end up in a shelter." Jack nodded slowly, then stepped aside, motioning for them to enter. "Come on in. We'll talk." Inside, Emily blinked, confused and relieved all at once. She had been bracing herself for rejection, for the polite excuse, for the door to close before she could finish her plea. Yet here he was, not only listening but opening the door wide enough for her and the children to step in. The interior of the farmhouse was warm, lit by the golden glow of a fireplace. The floor creaked under their feet, the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and old wood, and Jack's quiet presence made the space feel safe. The boys began to relax slightly, sitting on a worn rug near the hearth while Emily followed Jack to the kitchen table. Jack gestured for her to sit. "So, tell me about the boys," he said. There was no judgment in his tone, only curiosity and a quiet strength. Emily explained, briefly, their father's death, the struggles they faced on the road, and her fear of failing as a mother. She left out no detail, her voice trembling at times, but Jack remained patient, nodding, listening. Finally, after what felt like hours, he looked at Emily, then at her sons. "You're home now," he said, simply. Those words, so ordinary yet so extraordinary, struck Emily like a wave. Tears pricked her eyes. She had been turned away so many times, by landlords, by family, by strangers. But here, on this quiet ranch in Texas, a man she barely knew had given her something she had almost stopped hoping for, a chance. The boys shuffled closer to her, and she hugged them tightly. For the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of hope. Outside, the wind continued to whistle across the open fields, but inside the farmhouse, warmth filled the space, carrying the promise of safety, shelter, and perhaps the start of a new life. Emily realized that Jack's kindness wasn't just an offer of help, it was a lifeline. And in that moment, she vowed to make this chance count, not just for her, but for her boys who had weathered so much with her by their side. Life on the ranch was not easy, but it was honest, steady, and for the first time in months, full of quiet hope. Emily and her sons settled into a rhythm dictated by the land and the animals that roamed it. The mornings began early, with the sun casting golden streaks across the open fields. Jack would be out in the barn or checking the fences, and Emily quickly learned that helping around the house and kitchen was more than just a task, it was a way to belong. Noah, the eldest, was eager to prove himself. Jack gave him small chores at first, gathering firewood, feeding the chickens, carrying water buckets. Luke followed, helping with the garden and learning the names of the crops and the animals. Ben, though smaller and slower, had a knack for calming the younger calves and tended to them with a gentle patience that made Emily proud. The boys began to laugh again, their voices echoing across the fields like music she hadn't heard in months. Emily discovered that Jack's kindness wasn't flashy or loud. He didn't offer grand gestures or make promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he was steady, patient, and consistent, someone who showed that the simplest actions could carry the deepest meaning. He fixed broken fences without complaint, offered quiet advice when Emily asked, and always had a calm word for the boys when they stumbled or argued. Slowly, Emily realized that this was the first home she and her children had felt safe in, a place where mistakes didn't lead to punishment but to understanding. Evenings were spent around the fireplace, with Emily cooking meals while the boys shared stories from their small school and Jack occasionally joining them, a cup of coffee in hand. Outside, the Texas wind whispered through the trees, but inside the house, warmth and light wrapped around them like a protective blanket. Emily often caught herself staring at Jack when he thought she wasn't watching, his steady presence, the way he treated her and her sons like family, and the silent reassurance that, finally, they were no longer alone. Emily's hope began to grow. She started dreaming again, not just of surviving, but of thriving. She imagined her boys running freely across the fields without fear, learning skills they could be proud of, and finding joy in the simplest moments. The ranch became a classroom, a playground, and a sanctuary all at once. Every task, every small accomplishment, became a victory. One night, as the family sat by the fireplace, the boys drifting to sleep under the warm blankets, Emily reflected on how far they had come. From the fear of rejection and the cold nights on the road, they had found a place where they were accepted, valued, and loved. Jack's simple words, "You're home now," had been more than a promise. They had been a lifeline, a beginning, and the first step toward a future filled with possibility. Emily understood now that the true gift of this ranch wasn't just a roof over their heads or food on the table, it was the sense of belonging, of family, and of being seen. In a world that had rejected them, she had found people in a place who would stay. And that, she realized, was worth more than anything else she had lost. Seasons passed, painting the ranch in ever-changing colors. Spring brought green fields and blooming wildflowers, summer the long days under the hot sun, and autumn the golden haze of harvest. Emily and her sons had grown into the rhythm of ranch life, their laughter now as familiar as the wind rustling through the trees. The boys had grown stronger, more confident, and independent, their past fears slowly fading with each passing day. Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years, a calm that wasn't the absence of worry, but the presence of safety. Jack's presence had become a quiet anchor in their lives. He rarely imposed, but he always guided. When Noah stumbled over a task, Jack offered a patient hand. When Luke felt frustrated or Ben became scared of a new calf, Jack's calm voice reassured them. Emily noticed the boys beginning to seek him out, laughing at his quiet jokes and sharing little victories from their chores. It was clear that Jack hadn't just offered shelter, he had offered a stable, nurturing family. Emily herself felt a new confidence rising within her. She no longer feared the uncertainty of the future. Instead, she embraced the challenges that came with ranch life. Cooking, cleaning, managing the garden, and helping Jack when he needed it. These tasks no longer felt like burdens but ways of building a life she and her sons could be proud of. Every small accomplishment was a step toward healing, every shared meal a thread strengthening their bond. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and pink, Emily stood on the porch watching the boys play with the dogs near the fence. She felt a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in months. Turning, she found Jack leaning against the doorway, a quiet smile on his face. "They've grown fast," he said softly. "You've done good." Emily smiled back, feeling gratitude deeper than words could express. "We've all done good," she replied. "It's because of you, because of this place, you gave us a chance when no one else would." Jack shrugged, modestly. "Family isn't about blood," he said, his voice calm and steady. "It's about who stays. And we stay." That night, as the boys slept soundly in their rooms, Emily lingered by the fireplace, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. From the desperate days on the road to the warm, bustling life on the ranch, every step of the way had taught her resilience, hope, and the meaning of home. The fear and rejection that once defined her existence had been replaced by belonging, trust, and love. Emily finally understood that life's unexpected turns, though painful, could lead to the most profound blessings. The ranch was more than a house, it was a sanctuary, a home where her children could grow, laugh, and feel safe. And Jack, without fanfare or claim, had become the quiet heart of that home. As she blew out the lamp and stepped outside into the cool night, Emily looked up at the stars, shining over the wide Texas sky. She whispered a silent promise to herself. No matter what came next, she would hold on to this life, this family, and this home. They had been rejected, pushed away, and lost, but now, together, they had found everything they had ever needed.